Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things dirty through a common sense lens. And well, it looks like the battle for the soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe out there, boys and girls, the war over that, the civil war happening behind the scenes over there at the Walt Disney Company over that very soul, and the future of what Marvel Cinematic Universe will actually end up looking like, apparently is currently actively going on. And the big battleground right now is the X-Men movie. Obviously, one of the last major trump cards that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, that the Marvel brand has, to actually try to convince people to come back to the theaters and actually maybe possibly reignite some of the love for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is definitely long gone for a lot of fans out there, considering all of the abysmally bad garbage that, of course, Kevin Feige and the rest of Marvel has been giving us over the last few years. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, the battle over the X-Men movie is actually between Disney CEO Bob Iger and Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige wants to go one direction with the movie, and of course, Bob Iger would like to actually make money and not leave his legacy for the Walt Disney Company as going out on a very low note, considering the billions of dollars that they have lost on television and movies over the last few years. So, needless to say, the future of the X-Men movie and what it will actually entail as to whether or not it'll be activist nonsense or a good big old blockbuster like Deadpool Wolverine is currently going on behind the scenes. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what we've got to talk to you about here today. Because as you can see over here from thatparkplace.com, Feige and Iger reportedly clash over X-Men movie direction. Disney scrambles for a blockbuster while Feige wants more social commentary. Oh, there we go, boys and girls. If this rumor is to be believed, if it is true out there, well, needless to say, it looks like maybe Kevin Feige might not have always been down for the cult, but he's certainly been possessed by the spirit of the age now because of all the people in the world. Bob Iger, the person who is responsible for implementing all the diversity, inclusion, and equity hiring requirements within the Walt Disney Corporation, is actually pushing back. Looks like Bob Iger's legacy is way more important to him than any of the lip service and virtue signaling that the Walt Disney Company has been giving over the last decade. So we're going to check out this article from That Park Place and probably jump over to Cosmic Book News as well, because there's a little bit more to this post as well. And our dear sweet Matt McGloin was the first one to report on that as well. I just like a little bit more of the extra information, some of the backstory that Park Place gives us. So we're going to share these articles. We're going to get all the juicy details and let you know exactly what is going on behind the scenes and what the future of the X-Men movie might actually end up holding. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,900. We are sailing our way towards 2K, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, let us know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. Does it surprise you that Kevin Feige seems to be the one that was down for all of the activism and Bob Iger is now the one trying to actually make money? Do you think this is actually the case? Do you believe this rumor? Do you think the X-Men movie will end up turning into an absolute abomination like we've seen so many other things come out of the Walt Disney Company and Marvel as a whole? Or do you think Bob Iger might actually win out and we'll get ourselves another Deadpool and Wolverine experience? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description. Think about becoming a member. We get your name at the end credits of every single one of our videos and live streams, as well as get you access to a bunch of cool emojis for those live streams, and of course get you access to the once a month member stream where you get to hang out with me and a bunch of other nerds talking about all kinds of fun nerdy stuff and just get to enjoy ourselves. So please think about checking out that link in the description down below. All right, from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Marvin Montanaro. New rumors suggest behind-the-scenes battle is brewing over Marvel's long-awaited X-Men reboot, with Kevin Feige and Bob Iger reportedly at odds over the tone and focus of the upcoming film. According to insiders cited by X-user Main Middleman and reported by Cosmic Book News, the creative clash may determine whether Marvel's mutants return as ideological avatars or as crowd-pleasing box office titans. And I know I'm going to get the comments from somebody. The X-Men have always been political. That was the intent from the start. No, it's not. And that is an absolute bald-faced lie that has permeated through our culture for a very long time. You can find the interview with Stan Lee. And when people asked him what was the impetus behind creating the X-Men, it wasn't for social commentary. It's because he was tired of having to come up with an origin story for every single character. It was not meant to be political from the beginning. Hell, Magneto when he's first introduced, is nothing more than a villain and is for a very long time before they give him the World War II backstory that so many people know now. So don't try coming at me with that BS lie, that myth that has been pushed for so very long in our culture. It's simply not true. But what may potentially be true, and we're going to jump over to Cosmic Book News for this one because there's actually 3 parts to this little post right here, and that part place just puts on 2 of them. But shout out to Matt McGloin over there on Cosmic Book News. Go check him out. Go follow him on Twitter. Go follow him on all his social medias and all that kind of fun stuff. So this is from our user over here that obviously, if Cosmic Book News is reporting on it, obviously always take it with a grain of salt. This is all rumor mill stuff, but at the end of the day, this is very, very interesting from Main Middle Man. So Main Middle Man says, Feige wanted a more grounded X-Men story with a plot that really focused on social issues and disagreements about what it means to be a mutant. I'm sure that wouldn't be used for political commentary of modern day identity politics and politically correct nonsense in any way, shape, or form. Now, would it, boys and girls? No, they'd never do that over at Disney Marvel, would they? Yeah, exactly. He wanted a powerful, dramatic movie that really showed what the X-Men were all about, with the Brotherhood of Mutants as the bad guys. And I mean, I like the Brotherhood of Mutants as being the idea of being the bad guys, but I mean, you're literally going to have, you know how it is, right? You know the kind of nonsense agenda. They'll figure out a way to worm into it. They'll make the Brotherhood of Mutants some allegory for like conservatives or independents or libertarians or even classical liberals or somebody like that. Like we've seen this kind of stuff before. And of course, the mutants, the X-Men, they'll be all about the whole kind of like, no, everybody has to be accepted. Everybody has to be loved. It has to be all, you have to accept their truth because their truth is the most important thing in the world. Like we've seen this kind of stuff done before, right? It would not be the first time. It would not surprise us all. I mean, just doing social commentary in general, social issues is when you're talking about that is always going to end up causing an issue because modern Hollywood doesn't know how to do traditional moral values of black and white and wrong and right and good and evil and all that kind of stuff. No, everything's morally gray to them at best. And if not downright evil is good and good is evil, kind of up is up and down is down kind of up is down and down is up kind of nonsense. See, I can't even straighten my head. I can't even wrap my round about the way these people think sometimes. But like, that's the kind of stuff we know that we would get because this is the kind of stuff that we've seen happen time and time again with all of this kind of nonsense. So yeah, not probably the best idea considering all of the box office and streaming disasters they've had over the last few years with all of their social issues and commentary. But that's not what Iger and Disney want. Aware of the poor performances, more restrained films, especially the disappointing box offices like Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts recently. How about the Marvels? How'd that work out? It was Wham and Power Go and Black Girl Magic. Yeah, that's the kind of commentary and wonderful dialogue you get from a movie that is literally written by a bunch of diversity, inclusion, and equity hires. So, yeah, maybe Bob Iger might actually have the right idea here. And trust me, I rarely give credit to that man, but he might actually be on the right track here. But that's not what Iger and Disney want. Aware of the poor performances like more restrained films, especially the disappointing box office results like Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts recently, the script has been requested to focus on a great event film to get a wider audience attention. Yes, let's give them, I don't know, a traditional superhero story where you've got a team of heroes who have a big bad to go up against and they all have to unite and take down. I know, what a strange and wild concept to do in a superhero movie. No, instead, they'd rather have you do a Loki season 2 where you're sitting around a table eating pie talking about your feelings for 30 minutes. Yeah, that's what every Marvel fan wants, but contrary to popular belief, yeah, I know that's what every Marvel fan wants, right? All of that kind of social commentary, talking about your feelings. But still, for some reason, the box office and the ratings are turning into a disaster. And guess what? That's all Kevin Feige's fault. And Bob Iger's like, oh, hell no, homeboy. You ain't ruining my reputation anymore with these garbage sitting around talking about your feelings, movies, and television shows. No, we need action. We need big bads. We need fights. We need monsters. We need things that are going to draw in the crowds like Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, that's what you want to see. Because trust me, Fantastic Four is not going to save them. So expect an MCU's first X-Men movie to be more like Huge on events, focusing on the box office with more action and fan services. Oh, God forbid you give us more action in a superhero movie and you actually pay attention to the fans and give them what they want. You know, those paying customers that actually pay all your bills? Yeah, I know. Strange concept. Ideological issues will carry on, but they will be less important than dealing with something bigger. It'll probably another one of those blink and you miss it moments. It'll be a little line that everybody rolls their eyes at and goes, oh my God, and carries on with their lives. Because it's one of them situations where I don't know what else they would mean by that. But needless to say, that is where the current battle stays at right now. So at the center of Feige X-Men debate is the vision of what the new era of mutants should be. Feige, who oversees the Marvel Cinematic Universe since its inception, allegedly pushed for a grounded, socially charged story about mutant identity, prejudice, and the philosophical rift between the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants. The concept would follow in the footsteps of many recent Marvel offerings that leaned heavily into contemporary political metaphors and social themes. And needless to say, people don't want to go to their escapism for a bunch of modern-day politics. If they wanted that, they'd turn on CNN. But Iger, facing mounting pressure from shareholders due to diminished MCU box office returns, literally outside of Deadpool and Wolverine and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, everything they have put out since Endgame has lost money. So yeah, needless to say, the shareholders and the executives aren't exactly happy about the direction Kevin Feige's currently been helming the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After a string of box office disappointments, including The Marvels, Quantumania, Thunderbolts, and Captain Black America, Disney's top brass is reportedly demanding a return to high-stakes, high-octane event, films designed to reignite mass audience interest. Weird. High-stakes, high-octane? Wow, that almost sounds like an action movie, which is essentially what a superhero movie is supposed to be. You can delve into darker themes. You can delve into fantasy with those other characters. But at the heart of the day, at the end of the day, at the heart of the story, it's still an action story. It really is. If you want to sit around talking about it, you want to read about a bunch of people sitting around talking about their feelings, you'll go read some female's novel. Like really, like this is not what people want from their superhero movies. That echoes recent history. Under Iger's renewed leadership, Disney has slashed underperforming Disney Plus content and Star Wars content, cut Marvel's release slate, and shifted focus back to theatrical blockbusters after admitting that audiences have grown wary of content for content's sake. And just a lot of really bad storytelling is really what it comes down to. I would watch 7 Marvel shows a year if they were all good, but they're not. I would watch 7 Marvel movies a year if they were all good, but they're not. Marvel is filled with a bunch of talentless hacks at this point, with a few gems left in there. Most of the good stuff is already gone from that place. Let's see here. What do we got here? Yeah, growing audience of content. Iger has also already proven he's willing to course correct, gutting Chapek's distribution model, canceling greenlit projects, and firing execs like Victoria Alonso after public missteps. Yeah, she literally bashed the boss. What did she expect? The rumored conflict also mirrors the success of Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, both of which delivered major returns by prioritizing fan service and franchise nostalgia over social commentary. And it worked. Deadpool and Wolverine was so good. And that was the first Marvel movie I had seen in the theaters since Endgame. Boys and girls, I didn't see Spider-Man No Way Home in the theaters, even though I reported on all the leaks and we knew everybody who was going to be in it. I waited for streaming because I just wasn't going to bother. I was so burnt out. And guess what? I did end up loving the movie. It was great. It was absolutely great. And they were some of the biggest box office successes Marvel has ever seen. So yeah, maybe methinks going with what actually makes money might be a good idea. I know, strange concept, right, Kevin Feige? Strange concept. It's no surprise that Iger reportedly wants the X-Men to follow the winning formula rather than risk another niche-focused flop. Casting speculation is equally chaotic. Reports have floated that Cynthia Varra for Storm, which would be an absolutely horrible idea. Daniel Day-Lewis as Magneto. Basically a bunch of race-swapping nonsense is what they've been talking about doing, and that divergence would come as a price. Yeah, exactly. But Feige is said to be considering black actors for both Professor X and Magneto as well. Another possible point of divergence from prior iterations, and that divergence could come at a price. If they race swap Magneto and Professor X, It will end up just like the Harry Potter series is going to end up with casting a black Snape. It is going to fail. It is going to flop because in the era that we are in right now, a race swap like that automatically throws up red flags with the majority of the audience. And guess what? They're going to go, hey, if you're not respecting the source material enough to make the characters look like they do in the comics, why am I going to expect you to respect the source material enough to actually make the story good? Like, we're just not going to. You've done that to yourselves. Nobody even blinked an eye. Right, with our dear sweet Samuel L. Jackson, right, being Nick Fury. But that was 20, almost 30 years ago at this point, right? The culture has drastically changed because of what Hollywood has done to their fans and their audiences and the kind of stuff that they have put us through by doing these things. We automatically know what comes out. It's a red flag. You go, oh, well, they race swapped the character. Well, guess what? The story is probably going to be garbage. And guess what turns out to be? Yes, the story ends up being complete and total garbage. So needless to say, yeah, that divergence will come at a price. And it will tank the X-Men movie. If that casting, I do, please, Kevin Feige, please announce that casting. Please race swap these characters. I will have so many videos and I will have such a good time roasting you over and over and over again, because I guarantee you, if you race swap those characters, Kevin Feige, you will end up with a disastrous dumpster fire on your hands that will rival the Marvels, because ain't no fans gonna put up with that nonsense. Which much of the MCU brand now diluted from years of underwhelming content. That's a nice way of putting it. The X-Men represent one of Marvel's last major trump cards. It's a legacy property with deep recognition, generational fan attachment, and storytelling potential that, if done right, could reignite enthusiasm across mainstream audiences. But the studio is running out of goodwill. The studio has no goodwill left. Don't believe me? Go check out my videos over Daredevil Born Again's ratings. I enjoyed the show. The ratings were garbage because of what Marvel has done. There is no goodwill left with the majority of fans out there. If the X-Men reboot leans too far into the controversial or casting decisions, race swap legacy characters, or politically diverse narratives, it could go the way of Eternals or the Marvels. Expensive, alienating, and ultimately forgettable. Yep. And the Cynthia Varro thing, obviously this would be a horrible idea to cast her as Storm. The woman looks like the Wicked Witch of the West. She's way too skinny. I don't know if she's on Ozempic. I have no idea, but the woman looks anorexic. She's terrifying, she's scary, and is definitely not the full-figured, strong, muscular whammon, actual good whammon, strong good woman, and incredible leader that Storm is. No, this freak of nature does not represent or embody that in any way, shape, or form. And I promise you, if Feige is really dumb enough to do this, there is no way those movies will make any money. Absolutely not. Whether the final product leans Feige or bends Iger, the X-Men are shaping up to be a defining battleground for Marvel's future. With Iger set to exit Disney in 2026 and the X-Men reboot not expected until 2027 or later, the long runway leaves time for either vision to win out. But in today's climate, the stakes are clear. Marvel needs a win, and it looks like Bob Iger knows it. The real question is, who's going to win? Who's going to win? I mean, Bob Iger's the top dog. It's his show. It's his company. You know what I mean? It's his business. It's his name on that CEO's door, right? On that CEO's doorstep. That's where it's at. And it's going to be ultimately his responsibility because he hired Kevin Feige, right? He hired all the rest of these assholes. He brought them all in. He kept them in the fold. He kept them going while things were still turning into box office disasters. So you can blame Bob Iger as much as Kevin Feige for all of this. Because at the end of the day, the buck does stop with the CEO of the company, and that is Bob Iger. And so I hope Bob Iger does win out. I do hope we get an X-Men, a Deadpool and Wolverine version of the X-Men, or a Spider-Man No Way Home version of the X-Men, because that's something that I'd really enjoy. And if they can keep producing content on like that, and all the fans and all the audiences that actually go and see it say it's good and it gets good word of mouth, you might actually bring a good portion of your fan base back. You're not going to bring all of them back. Kevin Feige and Bob Iger have burned more bridges than they will ever possibly imagine with a good section of their fan base, a good chunk of their fan base out there. And you will never get those people back. And that's their fault. And it sucks because I want good Marvel. I want good DC. I want good, inspiring stories that I can pass down to my children, that I can share generationally with them, that make them a fan of it so then they can pass it down to their kids and all of that kind of stuff. That's what kept these characters and these stories going on for so long, these legacy characters, because they were generationally loved, right? Fathers pass it down to their sons. Sons pass it down to their kids. They pass it down to their daughters. They pass it down to their, hell, they even sometimes converted their wives and their spouses into this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's what nerds do. We want to make other nerds. We want to get you as part of our stuff, but only if it's good. If it's crap, you're not going to bring anybody into it. And Kevin Feige has been giving us crap for a very long time. And it looks like Bob Iger's finally sick of it. And I'm glad to hear it, And I told people for so long, everybody was like, oh, they're never going to change their ways. There's nothing's ever going to go any other way. Yada, yada, yada. Those parks are going to keep them afloat forever and yada, yada, yada. And they're never going to change. Yada, 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 yada. Well, guess what? Change is in the air. We heard the report last year from all of the activists that got fired. We heard the fired Pixar employees crying and whining about how they couldn't put gay stuff in Inside Out 2 anymore, right? They couldn't do any of this kind of stuff anymore. We've seen Disney pull episodes, right? At some point, the money does add up, right? At some point, 2 + 2 does still equal 4 because God is still on his throne in heaven. Up is still up, down is still down, and good is still good, and evil is still evil. And at the end of the day, these dogs don't hunt, right? These things don't sell. Ain't nobody picking up what you're laying down, Kevin Feige. Nobody wants this activist nonsense. And apparently maybe I was wrong. Maybe you are a true believer. Because if you're really going down this path, considering how many flops and how many disappointments and how many failures you've had over and over and over again, well, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Kevin Feige, you have continued to walk down this path over and over and over again, capitulating to the cult and giving them everything that they wanted. And what does it cost you? It's cost you your entire studio. It's cost you your studio's reputation. Used to be a Marvel movie, was guaranteed profitable, $800, $900 million. Guaranteed practically. $600 million at like the lowest. All right? For like some of the Ant-Man movies and stuff like that. Now, you can't even get Daredevil Born Again with Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio returning. You couldn't even get that to chart on your Nielsen ratings, Kevin Feige. Why? Because of the people you hired and put in charge of that series prior to having to fire everybody involved and change tune. My real question is that now, though, did that come from you, Kevin Feige, or did that come from Bob Iger? Because it sounds like Bob Iger's not so happy with the absolute abysmal abominations and dumpster fires that you've been putting out. You've cost this company hundreds of millions, billions upon billions of dollars that you have wasted on every failed, not profitable movie, every failure, not charting television show you put out there. You have cost this company tens of billions of dollars, Kevin Feige, and it looks like Bob Iger's finally putting you on the carpet and calling you out for it. So yes, I didn't ever think I would say this in the history of me making videos or talking about this stuff ever. But for the love of God in heaven, let Bob Iger's idea win out for X-Men and not allow Kevin Feige to turn it into just nothing more than a socio-political commentary garbage like we have seen for so very long. The X-Men deserve their proper place in the MCU and to do have their proper respect that is due to them and done a good job. Marvel, if you screw this up, it is the end of the MCU as we know it. And at the end of the day, you will have no one to blame but yourselves. Kevin Feige, Bob Iger, you danced with the devil, now you've gotten burned, and guess what? You did it to yourselves, and you're getting exactly what you deserve.